Hi, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, episode 140, Mechanical Breakdown Series, volume 40. We're doing Mets infielder Jeff McNeil. Very excited to do this one, share the video with you, and share the guy's breakdown. The guy I'm talking about, my friend, co-host, professional evaluator, successful business owner. He's my former coach, but he's a current day renowned coach, Jake Epstein. How you doing?
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
I'm excited to talk about McNeil today.
You were chattering pre-show here. I couldn't get you to be quiet, and now all of a sudden you just give me a one-word, two-word answer. Hi, Jim.
Well, that's what I always
Hi,
do, so I
Jim.
want to stay consistent as possible.
We're talking about Jeff McNeil today, Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 40, and go back in the archives and watch and listen to previous breakdowns. We've done so many. Recently, we've done Julio Rodriguez. We've done Tony Gwynn, a gold edition. Coming up, we're going to be doing Ken Griffey. We've done Derek Jeter. We've done Bryce Harper. We've done Manny Machado. We did do Manny Machado, by the way. A few weeks ago, we questioned if we did Manny Machado. We did actually break his swing down a while back. So go back in the archives and watch on YouTube, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, and listen to Apple, Google, Spotify, previous episodes. We got a good response from last week's episode, Requirements of a Successful Hitting Coach, Part 1. We're doing Part 2 next week, but we got a really good response. I think I have a YouTube comment here that was really funny on the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page. I don't know if you saw this, but when I saw this comment, let me see here. We got one that said, really enjoy the videos, which is nice. Thank you to whomever posted that, Mike Lacey on YouTube. There was one more, though. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is from, I don't know if he's trolling us. Probably is, but I want to read it anyway because I got a good laugh out of it. This is from the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, and he writes, this is No Bundy, KNOWBUDDEE, No Bundy. He goes, this is a comment on last week's episode, Requirements of a Successful Hitting Coach, Part 1. Whistleblowers / leakers and truth seekers are heroes. We're heroes now. Crush corruption with truth. I'm not making this up, people, by the way. If you visit the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, you'll see this comment. Be bold, brave, and smart. Have faith and no fear. See what you can do. If the truth will kill them, let them die. So we're apparently either he's trolling us, or that person's trolling us, or we're truth seekers of requirements of a successful hitting coach.
So. Yeah, he may have posted that to 4 or 5 million videos on there, would be my guess. But well, hey, thanks for choosing us there, buddy. No buddy, but whatever.
We invite all comments to the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast page and to our email address, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. I think we had a listener question this week. I just forgot to put it on the rundown, so maybe we'll get to it next week. A couple of things before we get to Jeff McNeil. By the way, I'm really excited to do the Jeff McNeil swing breakdown today. I don't know about you, but I guess because the Mets are just filled with stars, he's just not talked about enough as being a great hitter. His bat to ball skills, his barrel awareness, his barrel control is incredible as well. I mean, he is a great hitter. I love watching him hit.
Well, you don't look into winning a batting title. You have to have certain skills of depth perception and vision and approach and mechanics and hands and body awareness and to hit, I don't know what he hit last year, 330 or 326 or whatever it was. Yeah. But if you listen to him talk, he's an old soul, man. He's an old school guy. He chokes up a lot. He's all about, I heard him say something to the topic of, a lot of people go to get their bats fitted. We talked about that, I think, was that last week?
Okay, so I'm glad you brought this. I was going to bring it up later, but we can talk about it now. Last week we talked about the puck bat handle, or the big knob, whatever it's called, that big huge knob that a lot of hitters are using now across Major League Baseball. And I saw a video. I think you and I watched the same video when I was preparing for the show with Jeff McNeil. He uses a very flat type knob, but the barrel of the bat is still fairly heavy. And he started using this, I don't know how many years ago it was, but there's a stark contrast to what, say, Paul Goldschmidt uses with that big knob type bat, and the bat that Jeff McNeil uses, a much smaller knob. And by the way, Jeff McNeil chokes up a lot.
Yeah. Well, there's no knob. It's just
Well, there's no right. There's no knob.
it's
Yeah,
flared.
sure.
I'm trying to see. I have one here.
It's
Hopefully,
not it's not the traditional knob.
look at it. Look at me. I'm going backwards.
I know with you and your mic stand there. You're playing with the mic. Maybe that's why the volume was so loud earlier. You're playing with the mic.
Coming in.
Go ahead.
We're coming
Yeah.
back in. All right. So
Yeah.
this is, in case you're wondering, I don't know if you can see that. That
To
says my name,
Jake.
but that's all right. What
Who's
does
that?
say?
I don't know who signed that.
Pete Rose.
B Rose.
So this is a Pete Rose gamer.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see there's no knob on that, right? It just flares. There's the end of it. Ooh. Okay. So this is the same kind of bat McNeil uses. And if you can see the grain in this bat, it is so amazing. I don't know. Straight. It's because it's
What's the size dimension? The
I
size
have no
of that
idea.
thing? Is it heavy? 34.
Yeah, I mean it's not light. It's probably 34, 32. 34, 31.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not super heavy. I think McNeil's is probably bigger than that. But in that segment we looked at, or we saw, McNeil said, I'm not, a lot of guys are going down and getting fitted for a bat that gives them more bat speed and maybe more exit velocity. He says, I need barrel awareness. I need to be able to control the barrel, and this is what feels most comfortable for me. He's like, I don't care if I hit it 30 miles an hour, as long as I can hit a line drive, over the shortstop's head, into left field. And that's just an old school player. And when we break down his swing and watch him, he's very feel oriented. We're going to look at one swing. It happens to be a home run because they typically don't put, there's not a lot of video of guys slapping balls the other way.
Ground ball through the hole.
Yeah. We don't get those highlights. But if you do go in there, you could see, meaning side shots. You can get front shots of those, but side shots. But as I was going through kind of researching him a little bit more, he's taking pitches with 2 strikes at his letters, and his vertical bat angle's like, 10 degrees, and he's staying on top and shooting it down the left field line. And then he takes balls that he hits out in front when he's ahead in the count, and he's not going to hit a lot of home runs, but he's able to, hit him in the seats. He's able to drop his barrel a little bit more. So we're going to get a really good look at this. So definitely, those of you're probably listening to this, on a workout or in a car, it's kind of what I do when I listen to podcasts, but you're going to want to watch this one. You're going to want to, pull it up on the Lab Epstein Hitting YouTube page, or that's where you're going to want to watch it. So that's about the place you're going to do it. But you're going to want to watch, you don't want to watch this segment of me just talking, but with the breakdown, you're definitely going to want to check out, because it's pretty cool. There's a bat path image that Hawkeye's using now that we're going to kind of tap into.
I do want to talk about the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, by the way, for those listening and watching. And if you go to that, you were close. I mean, it only took you a couple of weeks for Jimbo Podcast 21 at gmail.com. The YouTube page is taking a couple of years. Work in progress. And also, too, you probably want to watch. People want to go to the YouTube page and watch the bat that you just showed, signed by. When did you get that signed, by the way, by Pete Rose? Was that when you were a kid too?
Yeah, that was probably. I don't know.
Well, your dad didn't play with him, right?
I have a picture with him, and I look like I'm about.
Oh yeah.
7.
Okay.
7 or 8. I mean, he's got a Reds uniform on, and it's spring training.
And your dad didn't play with him?
Nope, just against him.
Yeah.
They played against each other in the World Series.
I would love to hear what your dad would think about Pete Rose playing against him, what it was like, the experience.
Yeah. Well, again, we got to get Big Mike on, so I'll set it up. I'll see him Mother's Day. Maybe we'll set up a time. I'll see if I can get his computer set up, and we'll get him on there.
Here's some Big Mike stories. Efficient offense, by the way. I say this, I feel like every season, but it's worth noting again. And Jake tells his offense is this: the kids that he coaches and players and whatnot. Efficient offense. I saw this with the Texas Rangers last Sunday. 15 runs on 11. I think this was. Did they play the Yankees? I don't remember. But 15 runs on 11 hits. That's about as efficient as an offense as you can possibly have. Remember, more runs are or runs are equal to or greater than hits in an efficient offense. Meaning, if you score 2 runs on 1 hit, that means that you had a very efficient offensive type inning. Extra base hits, saw a lot of pitches, drew walks, good base running. You did all the little things along with the big things correctly. So just keep that in mind. Efficient offense, Mr. Epstein.
My kid
15 runs on 11 hits.
My kid yesterday had the most efficient at bat. She was 2 for 1 in the same at bat.
Wow.
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first pitch, she hit a line drive into right center field, and it was a double. She gets to second base. It was like one, she's skinny. Like for her to hit a ball through the outfield is pretty good. She gets to second. The umpire in the field called an illegal pitch, so it didn't count.
How's that possible?
Yep. Don't worry. Jake didn't get thrown out. So
did you get thrown out?
No,
you got thrown out yesterday.
I didn't get thrown out. No.
Oh man, you got to get thrown out. That would be a great story for
I know, it's very calm. So she comes back. It's the first inning. She's hitting. Was she hitting? I think she was hitting second or third. Right. We're trying to get a rally going. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we just stole that. So then she battles. It ends up going to a full count, and she got another hit to left center. So the softball gods were on our side. But I told her, I said, that's one way to get your average up, is to get 2 hits for 1 at bat.
It is
2 for 1. That's good.
It reminds me of a time when I was playing fall ball. I was 10 years old. I may have told this story before. I was 10 years old, and there was this gentleman. I won't mention the name, but there was this gentleman that was coaching with my dad in the dugout. And this gentleman says to my dad, yeah, my son, I won't say his name either, my son is hitting 1,125.
Oh,
yeah. And my dad goes, his first name was Steve. That's young. My dad goes, Steve, that batting average is impossible.
What is it?
Maybe he was referring to OPS.
I hope he was.
Maybe he came up with some analytical number before there was analytics. This was like back in like 1999, 2000. So people can do the math and figure out my age at that point. But that's what that story reminded me of. Your daughter going 2 for 1 and 1 at bat. She got 2 hits and raised her batting average. How do you get 2 hits and 1 at bat? Who knows?
Could you imagine getting a hit and be like, I'm going to go for another one?
All right, I know.
Ghost runner.
You single the other way and say, I don't like how I hit that. You know what? Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Let's go again. That's right. The ghost runner too.
Mm-hmm.
You should have gotten thrown out though. I'm a little disappointed in you.
Really, honestly, it's so easy to get thrown out of a youth game. A youth tournament. The umpires don't put up with any, and they shouldn't. But
if you were to get ejected, what would you say? What would be the magic words that would get you ejected from a youth softball game?
I've been ejected at much higher levels.
Okay. Did you ever get ejected as a player?
I did.
Oh, yeah. I never did.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one thing before I got released from pro ball. I was like, I got to make sure that I get tossed.
Right. So
just crossed it off the list. Yeah. It was the best $15 fine I ever paid. It was.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
So So you get thrown out of if you get thrown out of a youth softball game one day, youth softball game one day.
It wouldn't be a curse word. I would never say a curse word to.
So what would you say though to this umpire that would make you get ejected? Would it be like?
Well, you don't even have to say much. You just keep talking. So if they're like, okay, that's enough, and then you say another, they're like, okay, you need to leave. So it's a very subtle toss. I almost got tossed last year as a fan. Because here to get apparently I'm protective of my kid. She hits we drive like 2 hours to play in this tournament. It's like 40 degrees outside. She leads off the game. She's left-handed. She hits a ball kind of like a liner to the third baseman, but like a soft liner, and it sounds terrible. Like it sounds awful. So I was like, what did they just hit? Well, anyway, the person had a warm-up ball, not a game ball. It was a softie. She pitched a softie to
a softie softball.
Yeah, like a squishy ball. She pitched like a, that you would throw in a simulated at bat, so you don't hurt your hitter or whatever if it's on your team. And they called it an out. And I was like, that's not even a real ball. That would have been, probably a 30 miles an hour harder, or 20 miles an hour harder. It would have been, in the left field. And anyway, so I'm like, I didn't drive 2 hours to watch my kid hit a practice ball, and the lady was going to throw me out from the stands for
Oh,
that.
so so you were with
I
your
wasn't even
wife?
coaching. Yeah,
Were
I
you
was
with
just
Jamie, or
watching.
was it just you?
What do you mean, just me?
Was it just you in the stands, or were you with your
No,
wife?
no, no. There were 30, 40 people there.
Well, I know, but it was just you and your daughter. Wasn't like a family affair. So,
Yeah, my wife was there.
oh, so she saw you get ejected.
No,
So,
I didn't
and
get ejected, but if I would have said one more word, she was going to toss me, the umpire.
I would have just said, "Why don't you just say one more word?" I mean, I would have just said, "Okay, what?" And gotten
It's
ejected.
it's
I
very
drove 2
embarrassing
hours here.
to your child if you get thrown out. So I've made it a
Oh, it's
point to
embarrassed.
just
Okay.
when they say you need to walk away, then I just walk away.
My kids are in for a lifetime of embarrassment.
Hmm.
Because see, that's that. I'm at the point where if somebody says, "Hey, one more word to me from the stands," I'm going to say one more word and get ejected just for shits and giggles.
Right,
I
and then
don't give
you
a
have
fuck.
that slow walk, and your kid's like, "Oh my god, that's my dad," and
I'm
then
tipping
her
my cap,
teammates
baby.
are like, "God, your dad just got thrown out," and then your kid eventually says, "That's not my dad."
Yeah, or says, "Don't come anymore." Okay, I won't. No problem. It's a good way to get out of it. Good way to get out of having to go to games. Yeah, we just shared a little piece of advice for everybody. For parents who don't want to go to games, just get ejected, embarrass your kid, and then they'll say, "Don't come anymore." That's it. You're done.
Yeah,
You're good. You got your Sundays free all to yourself.
yeah, that's
Um,
now I gotta
also,
spend them with you.
yeah, yeah. That's so you can't get ejected then.
That's right.
You need the excuse of I have softball games.
That's right.
Also, I thought of this week. Just a little. Can I give a little piece of advice to everybody, or no?
Oh, absolutely. That's why people listen, Jim.
Yeah, for my advice.
Mhm.
I want to give some advice to people, younger kids out there. If you're an middle infielder,
Hmm,
or if you're a first
like
baseman or third base, huh?
oh, never mind. Then you went to the corners.
What do you mean? What were you going to say? You can talk.
I don't know. You said if you're a
So
middle infielder, and I put myself into when I was 12 and I was good enough to play the middle infield.
yeah.
And then I moved to the corners and I was like, nah, I wasn't as good anymore. I had to move to the corners. But go ahead.
So if you're, how oh, I almost dropped my mouse. You know how pitchers and catchers play catch, or catchers play catch with each other. You know
Mm-hmm.
how that, and it happens at all levels, including the
Mm-hmm.
major league level. Middle. If you're a middle infield, this is for kids and for everybody really, for high
Mm-hmm.
school, college. If you're a middle infielder, say shortstop, second baseman, have a catch with each other. If you're a third baseman and first baseman, have a catch with each other. If you're an outfielder, have a catch with each other. Especially though with middle infielders. Why is that? You get used to, if you try to hit each other in the chest, or you try to hit the target, you get used to the way the guy throws, you get used to the way the guy releases, you get used to the spin that comes out of his hand when he's throwing. And that helps you when you're trying to turn a double play, especially when you're trying to turn a double play. Get your footwork where it needs to be at second base based off the throw that you're used to receiving. If you're a second baseman receiving from a shortstop, you get used to all those little intricacies, and it makes you a lot more comfortable rather than just going in cold and trying to turn a double play with your double play partner up the middle. I think it all starts with having a simple catch, or using that person as your partner, your catching partner, day in and day out. Shortstop, second base, third base, first base, catcher, outfield, outfield. Jimbo's piece of advice of the
I'll tell
week.
you what, Jimbo,
That was some good.
more truth has never been spoken. That
That's
is
right.
very good information for young players. It all starts with catch. It
Yep.
it really does. There's nothing that upsets me more at a practice or a pregame when players can't play catch properly. When they're good players and they're losing their concentration and you start to stretch it out a little bit and balls are sailing all over the place, there's nothing. I mean, I put in a bylaw that if you make a bad throw, you have to sprint after that bad throw. Like, don't make your partner go get that bad throw. You go sprint that, and the girls can't stand it. Right? It drives them crazy. But where do we lose games? Where do all teams lose games? Throwing and catching is the number one thing. If you can be fundamentally sound throwing and catching, if you don't make any throwing errors and you catch the ball when it's thrown to you, you're going to win way more games. It's that simple. Whether you hit or not, you can't give away outs. And what you said is really good. Like I think that's a great idea with especially middle infielders.
Well,
Instead of
again,
just
with
your friend, instead of playing catch with your friend every single time the same way,
mhm.
play catch with the person that you're going to throw to in a game.
I wasn't taught this when I was younger, and I think that it's important that middle infielders or just people in general, young kids in general, baseball and softball, learn that playing catch is one, and being able to throw and play catch and catch it with authority. People don't understand what that means either. And coaches don't.
Yeah,
Sorry,
right.
youth.
Strong
Sorry,
hand.
coaches, youth coaches out there who work in academies. A lot of you don't talk about this either. You just say hit the guy in the chest. Okay, but
Yeah.
why are we hitting a guy in the chest? What's the incentive for that? There has to be more incentive when you're playing catch with somebody. There has to be the ability to catch the baseball or softball with authority. You can't just catch it very nonchalantly. You have to catch it with authority. Learning how to play catch, learning how to catch the baseball, two very often overlooked, but very vital pieces of playing the game of baseball and softball correctly.
Yep. And that's where it starts. Like if you can teach that to young kids, like it's priceless at a young age if they can take pride in their catch.
But again, and with middle infielders, you want to have a catch with one another, get used to those intricacies so it becomes easier to turn a double play, especially when it's a hard play. You see this with major leaguers, a guy, say Lindor, going in the hole to his right on the backhand side. He fields it, and then he sidearms
Yeah.
to second base. Whoever's, it's Guillorme covering second base.
Yeah.
Well, how is Lindor at times able to get it to the target, which again, when you're at second base trying to turn a double play, that target for the second baseman shoulders to, I guess, probably the upper ab and the abdomen area, right? That's
Right.
the ideal target so they can get good grip of the baseball and release it very quickly. Now, with that said, okay, with Lindor to Guillorme, how is it that Lindor is able to sometimes misthrow when he's throwing off balance, but Guillorme can still catch, receive the throw, and still throw out the guy at first and turn a double play when it looked like it was going to be a really hard double play? It's because Guillorme knows the release of Lindor and what the ball looks like coming out of his hand because they probably play catch together. Oftentimes overlooked. I just thought it up this week, and I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
So
No, it is. It's
take
the
it for what it is.
subtleties of great middle infield combos, and they practice every day, right? They're taking
Yeah.
ground balls, they're flipping balls from different angles all the time during BP or during early work, at the stadium. So it's a really great middle infielders working together is like a symphony. It's a really beautiful thing when guys can play together for multiple years and they know each other that well. They're able to do things that other duos can't.
Yeah, I'm going to tell my kid one day, if you want to play the middle infield, go have a catch with another middle infielder. Don't have a catch with the right fucking fielder. And if you don't want to play here's my thing. If you don't want to play the middle infield, that's fine too. You do something else.
That's
I'm
right.
just
Not
telling.
everybody can play the middle infield.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it my little Jimbo arrogant way. I'm just telling you what's best for you, but you don't have to listen to me. You know how people do that. But I don't know. I had this coach once in my youth. I had this coach in my youth once. His name was he said he tried out for the Pirates. His name was Bill. I won't say his last name. But I was throwing a bullpen session with him. I was like 10, 11. His kid's name was Joey. And Joey would always call, how hitters would call time at the plate and the umpire, they dig in, they're holding the arm up, like, hold on. I remember his father yelled from the stands once. You think you're bad getting ejected. His father yelled from the stands once, and we're like 10, 11 years old. He goes, Joey, put your fucking arm down and hit. He screams this from down the left field line. All the parents would look at him like, dude, what's wrong with you, man?
I love it. I will say that does, especially now, you can't even get out of the box. Like you better get rid of that habit. They're not going to give you time.
I'm all for that. Get in the box. Let's hit.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so I'm still saying sometimes I love this pitch clock rule because I'm watching it now. I'm like, God, that game was over in 2.5 hours. Now let's go on to the next game. It's like fucking. Anyway, this guy his name was Bill, right? And I'm throwing a bullpen session or whatever, and he's catching me, and he's saying how he tried out for the fucking Pirates, and I'm sure he used the excuse of, well, my back blew out, how everybody does.
Right.
And so he's like telling me something. And before I can even respond or even say anything, I wasn't arguing with him. He goes, Papa, you don't have to listen to me. Like, you don't have to listen. You do what you want, but you don't have to listen to me. You don't. Right. Yep. And I'm just like, I remember looking back on it now, and I'm like, oh, what a fucking idiot. What a dope. And then I just said to you, I'm going to do that, one day with my kid. Wait, you don't have to listen to me.
You don't have to listen to me. You're going to be Bob or Bill. Yep.
I'm just telling you, you want to play the middle infield. I know what I'm talking about.
You don't have to listen to me.
You don't have to listen.
I have a podcast.
Yeah, I have a podcast.
I have
right.
a podcast.
I only talk to the best hitting instructor in the country, and I've worked in the game for so long, and he's worked in the game for so long. But we don't know what I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. Whatever. Nope. All right. Moving on. Follow us on social media at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting on social media. Email us to jimbopodcast21 at gmail.com. Questions, comments, concerns, whatever. Let's get into Jeff McNeil here. Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 40, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, episode 140. And again, reminder, next week we'll be talking about the requirements of a successful coach, part 2, and really dig into the weeds with some technology and some more baseball-centric talk as it pertains to becoming a successful hitting coach. We'll talk about that next week. But talking about Jeff McNeil, I hear this a lot when analysts are talking about Jeff McNeil's swing, and they talk about this with everybody's swing. It seems like everybody puts a good swing on the baseball. That guy really stayed inside the ball well, which is very true. I agree. But oftentimes when a guy stays inside the ball really, really well, he also is in the bat path and in the zone for a really, really long time. And that's the case with Jeff McNeil. I think the best comp for him, thinking about this morning, is probably Todd Walker from the Red Sox, early 2000s, 2003, 2004. Although Jeff McNeil's swing is a little bit shorter than Todd Walker. Todd Walker had more of a loopy type swing, more of a power type swing. Jeff McNeil does not. But I'll say this about Jeff McNeil. I'll make it short and simple before we get into the breakdown. I can watch him hit all day. I think he is arguably the best hitter the Mets have in their lineup. I think he is arguably the best hitter in all of the National League. Again, the keys for him, he stays in the zone. His bat is in the zone for a very long time.
He hits. He's a hitter. Like I don't know what round he was drafted in or where he came from. We can look that up later, but he's a hitter. He's a guy that likes to hit. He's not trying to juice everything. He knows what he is, right? He knows he's a contact guy. And no matter where the pitch is, he's going to find a way to get to it. It's almost like he played, a lot of pepper growing up. He played a lot of bad ball with his buddies, when people are, we used to play strikeout as kids, right? Up against the garage door in a tennis ball. And you were just pretty much swinging at everything, trying to hit it. And that's what it looks like he is. He's just kind of an old school guy that probably, didn't take a ton of lessons, would be my guess, growing up, right? He wasn't, he's not on the internet. He doesn't change his swing. He never tried to, go with different fads. He's like, I'm just trying to get a barrel on the ball no matter where it's pitched. And it's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and break this thing down.
Let's do it. Mechanical Breakdown Series, Volume 40.
Yes, sir. Breakdown. Here's McNeil on the left here. What we're seeing, this is the same swing. It's just a graphic on the right, and that graphic is done by Hawkeye in the MLB Stadium. So it's a really cool view that we'll dissect here in a second. But let's start. We're going to start on the left, and we're going to look at his timing. So again, notice as the pitcher brings his arm up, look at McNeil bringing his foot up, right? So it all starts with, being on time, making sure that we're getting going. We're getting our our weight distributed into our rear leg early, making sure, notice where his hands are. Okay. I have so many players in the online academy as well. I hope you're watching this. You know who I'm talking to. Okay. And they hide their hands. Okay. So many players hide their hands. You can see he loads them back, but see how we can still see the knob of the bat at swing launch. Okay. I have so many players that get their hands and the bat like this behind their chest. Okay. And when that happens, we get trapped, and then our body posture has to change. Okay. So this is a really good, for those of you that trap your hands, this is a great way to start. Start with your hands out over the plate. Okay. And then as you load them and you coil your body, notice how his body's coiling as his hands go back, his front shoulder's working down and in. Okay. It'll load everything properly, and then you won't get trapped. Okay, so we're gonna look at launch position. Here's heel plant. Notice his foot angle. We talked about this when we did the he's only the greatest shortstop ever. The Jeter the Jeter breakdown a couple weeks ago. Notice how he's closed off a little bit. Okay, so he's a guy that closes his stance back off, so his heel line is now facing to the opposite field. Okay, this is really good for some players. Some players it's not. Most it's good. He starts with an open stance and he brings it back to closed. Okay. This will keep him from spinning off the pitches. Okay. So his launch position looks great as he goes through. Notice how that knob comes back and faces the pitcher in this position. Okay, so knob faces the pitcher. Now he's going to release the barrel. But when his barrel comes out from his hand, so again, I'm looking right where these arrows are in his approach position. Notice how the barrel comes in above the ball slightly. So even though this is a home run, his barrel is approaching the ball from above for most of this swing. Okay, now we're going to get wild. Okay, so I want you to look at the graphic on the right. Okay, this is the same swing. It's a home run. He hit 102 miles an hour, right? We don't have to hit it 115. Okay, and I don't know if you can see it, but right here it says attack angle of 12. He's only swinging up at 12 degrees, but his launch angle was 27 degrees. Okay, so that's a difference of 15. He wasn't swinging up 27 degrees to hit it 27 degrees. He hit the bottom half of the ball. Okay, now I want you to look because they gave us the pitch plane coming in here. I believe it was a 94 mile an hour fastball if we look at the video on the left. But this purple line is the pitch coming in, and this blue line is his barrel. Okay, it's his barrel path, right? It's the middle of his bat, his middle or the middle of that swoosh in there. But that barrel, notice how it gets right below, it gets to the purple line here deep, but then it gets just like an inch below as he's coming through contact. Okay, players that get 4 inches below are players that foul pitches straight back, players that swing under pitches, players that strike out once every 3 times at bat. That's where the hole in the swing is. Okay, but to hit home runs, you don't have to drop your barrel super deep under the pitch plane here. Okay, all you got to do now, if he got to that point, if he wasn't an inch under that blue line, okay, so if he wasn't an inch, he would have squared this up and hit a line drive over the second baseman's head at probably 12 to 14 degrees, okay, which is what the pitch was coming in. That's the big thing that we want to learn from this is he is a flat swinger, right? He doesn't have a big drop under that purple line and then come up through it. So he's going to make a lot more solid contact. That is the graphic of somebody, and we put it in there all the time, right? Like Vlad has, very similar path as that. That's a guy that's going to hit for a higher average. Okay. It's not about, we're just trying to hit home runs on everything. You don't have to. You can try to have a flat swing like this and just stay slightly under the pitch to get it in the air. Okay. Now, if you're 85 pounds, probably not a good idea. Try to hit the ball, try to launch the ball at 20 degrees, because they're going to catch it if it goes any higher than that. But as we get older and as we get stronger, then we can start to hit the ball in the air more. Okay. Back to the actual swing, assuming you all are still awake. All right. So now we're looking at his vertical bat angle at contact. Now, number one, where's this pitch? This pitch is thigh high, right down the middle of the plate. Okay. What do we hit? But what balls do we hit really well? Mistakes. You have to take advantage of mistakes. We talked about that probably in our first episode way back in 1987. Okay. We talked about not missing the Paul Molitor story, not missing mistakes, hitting mistakes hard. Okay. What's good about him is he could get his bat, his hands in the same spot and get his bat vertical angle flatter at, let's say, 10 degrees and hit a pitch at his belly button. Okay. He can also drop it a little bit more without moving his hands very much and get it down here a little bit more to cover a pitch at the bottom of the thighs. Okay. So he's very flexible with his swing. Okay. He doesn't just practice one move. He doesn't just practice one turn or one move or one swing plane or whatever it is. Okay. So anyway, really good swing. We're going to see it from the side here, and it's kind of a weird angle from the side, but notice how he clears his right hip. Now, he's a right-handed thrower, so this is a tougher move. So typically right-handed throwers that are left-handed hitters, they don't get nearly as much separation with their front hip. Like if you look at his front hip turning, his front shoulder is coming at the same time. Okay. He doesn't have a ton of separation. He's coiled, and then when his foot hits the ground, he's got a little separation, but not nearly as much as, somebody that is, left-hand dominant. And that's probably why he doesn't hit the ball quite as hard as other people. But he doesn't care. What did he say? If I hit the ball 30 miles an hour, but it's a base hit, I'm the man, right? He feels good about that. Okay, so now we're going to fast forward a little bit to this. It's kind of a front side view, so it's not the most beautiful thing, okay? Beautiful view, but just watch his footwork. You see how closed his front hip is when he lands. So now you can see that move. His front knee stays closed. His front foot stays closed. His back knee's starting to come in to release his hips. Okay. And then as he rolls through, it's just a very sandlot type swing. He has great extension. He's kind of upright. He looks a little bit like a golfer with his lower body. Okay, with his front foot rolling over. So why did his front foot roll over? Because it was closed. Okay, we talked about that with Barry Bonds. Okay, if your front foot is closed and you're trying to rotate your hips, your foot's going to give. Okay, the foot's going to give and you're going to kind of roll to the outside of your foot. But notice his consistent extension here. Okay, like he gets to the ball and then he extends through, and that barrel, if you look at his power V here, again, it's kind of a wonky angle, the Mets.
I like this angle, though. I do like it.
All right, Jim. This is the last podcast listeners will ever do. Did you just disagree with me, Jim?
I did. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm giving you credit for the angle.
Oh, you are. I didn't even do anything. Okay. So again, we're extending the arms through. The power V is very, very in line with his bat is in line with his V, right? So here's the V of his arms, and then that bat's kind of shooting right out the middle of that. Okay, that's what we want to look for. And if we look at the right, I don't know if it continues. Yeah, it doesn't really. Well, yeah, you can see his bat go through. That's the same part of the swing there. Notice where the top bat is on the right hand side. Okay, probably right about there. So the cool part is you can see how smooth this blue line is on the right. That blue line is his barrel path. So he could hit a ball. I'm going to mark this up. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more because I can. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So this area here where his barrel path is on that purple line. I mean, even here it's on, right? So he's on plane. He can really hit a ball anywhere from there to there. Now, if he hits it back here, he's probably going to just shoot that foul into the dugout, okay? But this front of the box here, that's going to be his happy zone, all right? So because that contact zone is so big, he's going to make more solid contact. Now we're going to look at this from above, okay? We're going to take an above view. This is how his barrel worked. Would you say this is inside the ball? Okay. It's inside the ball here. If you look at his barrel coming from the inside, see how it matches the angle of the plate? This is pretty cool. Okay. So here's where it matches. See the pitch losing speed, by the way? This is really cool. This is what people don't realize. This was, again, if we look here, I'm going to go back. Oh, do I have it? Oh, I may have to zoom out here. Oh, it's not telling us. This was a 94-mile-an-hour pitch. I'm fairly certain of that when I saw it on the original video. Okay. But if you look at this pitch, by the time it gets to home plate, you can see the video starts out. That's where it caps out. So if we look at this, by the time it gets here, it's 88, but it started at 94. People don't really realize that. So the gun takes consideration of the hand, like what is the fastest part of the pitch. So even though it's 94 there, it's losing 8 miles an hour by the time it comes to the plate. Okay. So there's something you may or may not have known. Okay. But if you look at his barrel path, it's coming from the inside and then he's releasing the barrel and still able to pull the ball. But this is a pitch that was, I guess it shows it maybe one ball. It's like ball 5, I would say. But because he stayed on plane, maybe he was a little early. Maybe he wanted to hit it here. I mean, I don't think he did, but he could have still hit that pitch there, right? That's the key. So a lot of times if somebody's hitting around the ball, what you're going to see, instead of the blue line coming from the inside, the blue line is going to kind of come out this way, and then it's going to come back around this way. So our barrel comes from the outside a little more. It always starts in here, okay? But what happens is it gets released with the hand. So if we look at that, we're going to just geek out here. This is like a certification breakdown. So some people may love this and some won't. So as he comes through here, okay, as he comes through here, and again, it's not the best view, even though Jim likes it. We can see his front forearm is here and his bat is here. So this angle in here is less than 90. Okay. People that hit around the ball, which pretty much every big leaguer does not. Okay. When they say, I'm trying to stay inside the ball, of course you do. That's why you're in the big leagues. Like, If you didn't stay inside the ball, you wouldn't have got out of high school. Okay. But if this barrel starts working out this way and this angle in here gets bigger during this part of the stage, then we're in trouble. So you can see that when does the barrel come out from his body? Maybe there. Players that hit around the ball, instead of this position, it'll start to come out when they first start to turn, and then that barrel will be on an angle like that. Okay. So that's kind of what, inside or outside. That's when it happens. It happens during rotation. Do they hold that angle with their forearm and their bat, or do they start to release it early? Hence, that's why I'm not a huge fan of throwing the barrel away from you early in the swing to get on plane early, because that will, if you try to hit a ball out in front, or if you're a little early, you really don't have a chance to hit it. So try to keep that. That would be considered a cast if that barrel moves away from the head. So anyway, recapping McNeil, he's a hitter. He looks different on almost every pitch. He is not a robot. He is not a just turn and burn guy. He swings down on high pitches. Sometimes he swings up on high pitches, depending on the situation and depending on if he's trying to drive in runs or he's trying to get on base. And to me, that's a complete hitter. And as we teach hitters, we want to teach them to do different things. Hey, hit a ground ball here. Hey, hit a fly ball here. Hey, pull this ball. Hey, hit this one the other way. If you can create complete hitters like that, and you train their muscle memory and their brain to react to different pitches and different situations, then in games when you got 0.4 seconds to react, or less than that, actually 0.226 seconds, 0.24 seconds, something like that, then their body will know what to do because you put them through those different scenarios. That's all I got,
love that.
Jim.
Great job. Great breakdown. Mechanical Breakdown Series Volume 40, Jeff McNeil. And no, this is not our last podcast. Jake was just kidding.
I was totally kidding.
He was totally kidding. I do like that angle, though.
Right.
From the side view.
You're treading here.
What do you think of his stride, by the way, before we wrap up? His step, timing.
I like his step. It's pretty simple. It's not big, but it's not fast. And I try to teach all of my young hitters to actually step towards the plate a little bit, because for the most part, there's fear in there where they're going to want to step away from the plate. And if I can overtrain them stepping in, then usually they'll be pretty square and they won't step out anymore.
All right. Well, great. This was a really good one. Jeff McNeil, one of the best hitters, I think, in all of baseball. I'm glad we got a chance to break his swing down again. We will be breaking down more gold editions coming up later in the year, and in particular, Ken Griffey Jr. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll do that later in the year. Plus, we're going to break down Yordan Alvarez, who has a very similar lower body type movement or movements to Jeff McNeil.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Another sparkling factoid you threw out today.
Yeah. So that's coming up later in the year, episode 140. Today, Mechanical Breakdown Series. Say again?
I love Alvarez.
Okay. Well, we're going to be breaking his swing down later in the year.
Calm down, Jake. Calm down.
As my grandfather used to say, keep your shirt on. Hold your horses.
Keep your shirt on.
Hold your horses. I'm sure your dad used to say that to you. Hey, hold your horses.
Yeah.
My dad used to say something different, though. Fucking relax. That's what he used to say.
Right.
Yeah. Not keep my shirt on or hold your horses. All right. That wraps up today's episode. What do you got coming up at the lab? Anything? How about where people can get cool lab gear, like this cool hat that I'm wearing there that I wear week in and week out? I like this hat. It's very comfortable.
Yeah, those are good hats. You're gonna have to visit the lab. We do not have a shipping department at the lab, so my apologies there. But visit the lab. Visit the lab anytime. Yeah, College Station, Texas, especially if you're within driving distance. Or you can come see me in Denver. I'm kind of actually filling up for the summer. I got a ton of players that are, online academy players that are coming out for, usually what we do is 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days, you come out, we train 5 or 6 hours over that time and do some mechanical work. We do some aggression work. We do possibly some K-vest work, depending on what you got going on and how old you are. We do some mental training. So if you're interested, just shoot me a line, jake@epsteinhitting.com.
And you can email us jimbopodcast21@gmail.
Anytime.
Anytime.
The email does not close. There are no hours on the email.
And be sure to email Jake and give him your condolences for the Avalanche losing in the first round. Ouch. Tough way to go out after winning the Stanley Cup last year, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it happens, right?
It does. It does
Yeah.
happen. Next week, requirements. You didn't even watch the series. Don't let Jay fool you.
I don't wait till I don't wait. I only watch the last two.
Jake's too busy trying to avoid getting ejected at youth
Correct.
softball
This
games.
takes a lot of work for me and a lot of patience.
It does. All right. Next week, requirements of a successful hitting coach, part 2. That'll be episode 141. Be sure to subscribe, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube as well, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.